Is everybody ready? Good. All right. Well, welcome to Tundra Talks, where curiosity meets collaboration. Today, I'm going to be hosting this webinar for the Arctic Research Consortium of the United States, or ARCUS. And today, I'm assisted by ARCUS staff Judy Fonstock and Stacy Stout. So thank you. Tundra Talks is a new webinar series that ARCUS is hosting, and it's dedicated to discussions centered around on community and citizen science in the Arctic. Through these, we hopeful engaging discussions and shared insights, our aim is to foster a deeper understanding of the vital role that community and citizen science has in the Arctic and promote collaboration and knowledge exchange for both the people that live there and the broader scientific community. In today's session, we are going to explore K-12 student-led research, and I realize that's kind of US-centric, but if you're from outside the US, it would be pre-college or pre-community college. So I know that there's different grades around the world. And student-led research, by definition, and you'll see that there's a lot of wiggle room in this definition in today's presentations, but it's to be a collaborative endeavor where students work together in groups or teams, share their ideas and feedback with their peers. Pretty simple. But student-led research not only enriches the quality and diversity of what they're exploring, but it also cultivates social and communication skills among the participants. And when we hopefully get into student-led action research, hopefully it pushes them into action and not just discussion, addressing a specific problem and making a change. So in today's Tundra Talks, I'm honored to convene this distinguished panels of experts who share their experiences in K-12 student-led research. Joining us are Katie Spellman and Elena Sparrow with the University of Alaska Fairbanks, Alyssa Scott with Child Trends, and Roben Itchoak from Shishmaref School. She's not here or present today, but she did send us a video to share her perspectives. After I introduce the panelists, they're going to share some projects and insights and address, and then we'll go into panel discussions that I sent to them before. But if you have questions as we go along, feel free to put those in the chat, and then we'll also allow you all to turn off your microphones and participate in the discussion portion of this event. At that time, we'll ask you to raise your hand. And at the moment, feel free to introduce yourself. I see somebody's already doing that. Introduce yourself, let us know where you're joining from, post any links or share resources as we go along, and we'll try to monitor the chat. And another note, we are recording this event. It'll be available on the website, and we'll send it out by email after to everyone that is registered. Again, welcome to Tundra Talks. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to start introducing our panel. And so next slide. Starting on the left of your screen, I'd like to introduce Alyssa Scott. She's a senior research analysis and youth development program of Child Trends in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She is known for her dedication to community engaged research and adding participatory elements to her research and technical assistance whenever possible. Alyssa has received a Master's of Public Policy and a Master of Public Health from the University of Minnesota. Most of Alyssa's recent work has been with partners in the education and justice systems to enhance student and youth adult access and success. Next up is Dr. Katie Spellman, a research associate professor at the University of Alaska Fairbanks International Arctic Research Center, specializing in ecology, community engaged science, and climate change education. She's a lifelong Fairbanksian, wife, mother, and daughter, and loves being outside, playing sports and games, and laughing. She really likes laughing. That's cute. She leads and collaborates on several different science education and community science research projects, such as GLOBE, Arctic and Earth Science, Winterberry Citizen Science, fostering science and fresh eyes on ice. Welcome. We now have Elena Sparrow. She's an education outreach director and research professor at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. She is an expert in teaching and learning, pedagogy and education, professional development, and soil microbiology. Kind of the science there at the end. I love it. She is also the founder and director of Globe Alaska. Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment is an international science and education program that provides students and the public worldwide with the opportunity to participate in data collection and the scientific process and contribute meaningfully to our understanding of the Earth system and global environment. As well, she leads the NASA Science Activation Project that weaves multiple knowledge systems in STEM and climate change, learning, and action. Thank you for joining. And finally, we have Roben Itchoak. She's an Inupiaq educator from Nome, Alaska, currently living and teaching in Shishmaref, which is a coastal community in Western Alaska. She has a master's in education and curriculum and teaching with endorsements in middle and high school social studies, English language arts, and English for speakers of other languages. She believes that all people should have access to all kinds of education and that everyone can learn, especially when content is provided in relevant and meaningful ways. Her life is dedicated to helping to redevelop healthy and vibrant Indigenous communities in honor of her ancestors, and for families today and tomorrow. And with that, I really welcome you all here. Thanks for joining to everybody else that is out there. With that, I'm going to turn this over to the panelists to share a little bit more about their projects so you can learn about them and their perspectives. Afterwards, we'll get into the questions and discussions. So we're going to start with Elena Sparrow, then move into Katie, Alyssa, and then we'll share a video with from Roben at the end. So, Elena.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. Hi, I'm Elena Sparrow. I'm a wife, mother, and sister, education outreach director and research professor at the International Arctic Research Center at UAF. I acknowledge and thank the Lower Tanana Dene people who have taken care of the lands upon which our university now sits, and I'm committed to working towards their sovereignty and self-determination. There are two earth science programs that I've been working on for K-12 student-led research engagement, both of which follow the 2 UN United Nations Sustainable Goals of inclusive and equitable quality education and climate action. The first program is the GLOBE program, and which I started here in Alaska. But this, you see the map, there's more than 125 countries involved in this program and participating. And this citizen and community science program started as a K-12 program and has expanded to undergrad, grad student-led research, as well as the general public participation. There are many areas for conducting research: atmosphere, hydrosphere, pedosphere, biosphere, and cryosphere. There are measurement protocols or methods that students can use in studying the environment around them and the Earth as a system. And so besides contributing to ongoing science research, this GLOBE program has been used by students to conduct their own research investigations. And in my work, I have partnered with elders, Indigenous elders, Alaskan elders, and also with an Indigenous educator, Melinda Chase, who also directs the Association of Interior Native Educators. And you can see the logo AINE here. And second slide, please. So, the second program that I want to talk about is the Arctic and Earth STEM integration of GLOBE and NASA. So we have co-produced co-developed this learning framework with the Association of Interior Native Educators, and building on what they have and what we have developed separately, and then bringing it together. And so we developed a learning framework that is based on the foundation of indigenous knowledge and ways. And the start is learning from the elders and long-term residents and scientists about the science and impact of climate change. And and my co-PIs on this is Katie Spellman, Melinda Chase, and Javier Fochesato. And we have other team members, Emily Souza, Christy Buffington, and Tori Brannon, and many, and Santa Roach, and as well as many others in the 4-H and cooperative extension program. And so in this, I show pictures of different teams and actually individuals, students who have done research. They have conducted their own investigations, and they follow this learning framework that you can actually enter anywhere. After listening to from the elders, then they discover what the adults know and what their interest might be. And so they do culturally responsive activities to establish knowledge, and then try to think of how they can think of a question that they want to pursue, or a topic that they want to investigate, and then try and do some experiments, and working with their teachers and scientists and the elders, and then making sense of what they found out, and then applying it. This is where the action comes in, applying it to a stewardship project. And so there's examples of this picture where there's several high school students and their elder and their teacher on the right-hand side, middle of the pictures on the right side of the slide, where they chose to study the erosion of the riverbank that is sending some houses into the river due to permafrost degradation and some other causes that they wanted to study. And so they went to the tribal council after they had conducted their study to recommend a different way of anchoring into the river bank for boats, and also to have more vegetation planted along the riverbanks, because the roots of the plants held the soil, and also to recommend the no swell zone on the river, part of the river that is right next to to their town. And so, and they went ahead and presented at an international global learning expedition. And so have these other students shown here. Even elementary or primary students have been able to present their investigations on salmon and on the effects of built structure on the river quality and fish habitat and the fish themselves. And so so it's trying to make students, it's not try to make them, but to give them the opportunities to study what they're interested in that is relevant to them and to their community. Thank you.
Thanks, Elena. While you were talking, there was a request for the to access this learning framework, and Katie shared it in the chat. So, and she's sharing some other stuff out there too. So, if you haven't noticed, the chat's a great place for sharing resources. We'll try to also aggregate them after this event and share them on the community site as well as in the follow-up email. So, thanks, Elena. Okay, speaking of Katie, we're going to turn it over to you right now, Katie. And if you, I don't know if you have anything you want to share with your screen or not, but
yeah, if Elena unshares, or if you unshare yours.
Yep, we have to have Judy stop sharing hers.
Judy.
There we go.
All right, excellent. So me and Elena work very closely together. So I'm kind of like her bodyguard at conferences. And no, I have known Elena since I was a little girl, and she convinced me that I could be a scientist that cares. And so all the projects I do are with that thread, science that cares. I'm gonna highlight a project that kind of grew out of the project that Elena was talking about. We use that same learning cycle model that starts with knowledge of the elders and ends with action, and includes student-led investigations in between. So this project focuses on ice, and we call it Fresh Eyes on Ice, and we use globe in it, and we use the learning model from the Arctic and Earth Science in it. So Elena gave already the background. And we have a big team, and a lot of these team members are overlap between what Elena just talked about. We honed in on ice in the Arctic just because it's a rapidly changing climate impact, similar to the erosion example that Elena gave. We're seeing ice and the things that people depend on ice for in Alaska changing rapidly. And we have a team that looks at this from many angles, from historical data to remote sensing data to real-time fixed cameras and repeat photography. But the part that's the most vibrant is our community-based monitoring and citizen science parts of this project. And youth as a part of the project go out and collect data on ice timing and thickness. But so similar to the model that Elena was sharing, we start with observations from the community and from elders, and we start there. And we wanted to make sure that what we know from Elena's decades of work, that community planning and elders really want youth to be engaged in the future. And so we started this project off by doing a needs assessment. Our other project was also started with a needs assessment, the Arctic and Earth Science, to make sure that whatever the university does is also squarely aligned with what people actually want. So I love starting any sort of work with students and youth with a needs assessment. When I go into a classroom, and maybe we'll get into this, I always do a mini needs assessment. And when I spin around, I spin around the classroom, and I'm like, look at, okay, what are they already learning in this room, and that I can hook in to the activity that we're going to do, so that it meets the needs of that teacher, that classroom, But in our Fresh Eyes on Ice needs assessment, we saw Alaskans reporting ice travel safety and breakup forecasting as their #1 priorities for data collection. So that's what the kids do. They go out and they get ice measurements, snow and ice thickness, and the snow depth. We use Globe for that. We also use the Globe Observer app for photos to get the timing piece. So we know people wanted thickness and timing. And then we share the information broadly through different platforms and social media, especially. We have over 2,000 people sharing ice observations through our social media channels, and that helps people make decisions. The National Weather Service also uses the data in real time for flood forecasting. So anytime a kid is out there taking an observation with their class, it's a double whammy, for their community, but also for community safety alerts that the National Weather Service does. We also have experimentally tested whether just going out to collect data in a citizen science project or creating your own investigation based on something that your elders and your community say is important. So we call that as like contributory versus co-created designs in citizen science. We actually have tested some of those ideas. I'm going to share with you some of the results from that. So we've written a lot of lesson plans. That's the point of this slide that I'm stuck on. But okay, there you go. So we compared this contributory model where you just go out and do citizen science to a co-created model where the youth are designing their own projects and asking their own questions using the Fresh Eyes on Ice protocols, but like questions like, you know, how strong is the ice if it's dirty? Or questions like, we see beaver activity and we wonder if beavers are affecting our ice thickness and our safety. Or what was the one in Bethel, Elena, where the kids surveyed hundreds of people in their community about their ice concerns. So when we interviewed those kids, and my PhD student, Sarah Clement, has led this work. And so that's get her acknowledgement to Sarah. She's brilliant. Everybody should work with her in the future. Hire Sarah. So this is a figure from her. And when we interviewed the kids, when they were in co-created projects, they were able to see the relevance to their community more clearly than when they were doing contributory projects. For the science, the contributory projects, you know, the youth were mentioning their understanding of the science a little bit more. But when the climate impacts came, the students mentioned the climate impacts more when it was co-created. And then we also looked at whether or not the youth thought that they could make a difference in these two different models. Because you know, those pictures of the kids that Elena just showed, I saw, like, you know, I shouldn't name their names in public without their permission, but there's some of those students that are inspiring now and going to international meetings on climate change. And so they, just the co-created students had a significant change in the way that they thought about science helping their community. So we did find a difference in those two models. For enthusiasm, though, no difference. The kids were equally excited to do a co-created versus a contributory. And in the interviews, it was just like they loved just getting outside. And so, yeah, I'll leave it there and turn it over to our next panelist.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Alyssa, if you're ready.
Okay. So my name is Alyssa and I am actually based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And when I do student-led research, it is primarily not involved with activities at all. And I haven't done science in a while, but I thought one project that I'm working on currently that is sort of in this world and in this realm and related topically is thinking about different measures of math engagement. So a project that I'm working on, again, I'm at Child Trends and we're partnering with Search Institute and McGraw International on this one, funded by the National Science Foundation. Is literally called the Adapted Measure of Math Engagement. I have to click. So just like as an intro to this, this is with a school district in Minnesota. So the goals of this project were really to think about existing measures that we have for engagement, specifically in math, and how they might be centered around white students. In fact, we are fairly sure that they are, but especially in Minnesota in particular, there's a big shift happening in school districts where white students are in a lot of places becoming less of a majority, and more Black and Latino students are becoming the majority of students. So wanting them to feel equally engaged in STEM and then go into STEM fields. So we wanted to better understand and center Black and Latino students and their engagement in math. And this is happening with adapting and refining an existing survey of student engagement that better captures Black and Latino students' experiences. And then also to understand how students' math engagement supports their academic and socio-emotional outcomes. And this is what would be considered a critical participatory action research project, and it is with a public school district. So we have, and the way in which this is student-led is that we have a research group that is made up of one student and one teacher from each of the 5 middle and high schools in the district. And they come together to really guide this research to make meaning of all the data. They've also been involved and led data collection. So they partner with professional researchers from the 3 nonprofit organizations that I named earlier. And then all together, we meet regularly to, as I said, sort of discuss findings, lead data collection, make those research decisions. And just as like also part of the overview, this is from just like the first full year of our work together. We did interviews with math teachers, we did student focus groups, we did a survey of students and their self-reporting on their math engagement. And then also once we then created a draft of a new survey, did some survey feedback sessions for really cognitive interviews, but in a group setting with both students and teachers. Just because this is a bit technical and different than the other projects that were talked about, I'll go into a little bit of our measurement development process, and then I'll stop and I can go into more details for sure if there are questions or more interest in this. I don't want to completely bore people. So just to talk a bit more about how this was student-led and what we hope the trajectory is. So we started last summer with understanding that we had collected all of this data already, most of it that I mentioned on the last slide, except for the feedback sessions. So we collected all that data prior to July. Then in July, as a research group, really focused on understanding how Black and Latino students thought about and understood math engagement. So we used both the survey results and the focus group and interview data. And then we also, so as a group, identified themes that we wanted to be included on a new survey for math engagement that centers Black and Latino experiences. In August, we then, as a group, developed a list of questions based on these themes to be included in the survey. We also shared that initial survey draft with the school district. In October, we then, so between then, we did a little bit more refining and identifying which questions we really wanted to test and make sure that students were understanding it the way we wanted them to, so that we got the results that we were hoping for. So we did those feedback sessions that I mentioned, those were in October. And then in early November, we had some more refining to do based on the feedback collected from students and teachers. In December, we finalized the questions to be included on the survey. And actually just last week, we ended administering this brand new survey to students. And so the quant team is focused on analyzing those results so we can better understand how our themes that we identified as a research group, how those are working with the survey and if people are understanding. I'm more of a qualitative person, so I'm not going to talk about those methods, but I can happily refer you to some, we can talk more about that. But then we're continuing sort of this cycle. So in April, we will do some more student focus groups and maybe also teacher interviews to really double down on and make sure that we're understanding math engagement for Black and Latino students in the way that the survey is sort of checking the survey results against what is actually happening in the school district for Black and Latino students, to really just make sure that the survey is as useful as possible for this school district. And then we'll do another round of the survey so in like 2025. So we'll do a little bit more refinement throughout the beginning of next school year as well. I will be done talking now. Stop sharing. Thanks.
So, thank you so much. All right, I'm sure there'll be some questions coming up here, but before we get to that part, we're going to share Roben's video and her perspective on what she's been working on. Whenever Judy's ready.
Judy,
Me.
where are you?
Judy, where are you?
Over, and then just a short
running
while
and
later,
not sharing.
there was a storm that blew the ice out.
Yeah, it's running, but it's not sharing.
Unfortunately, about
I'm starting over again.
Okay.
And
The
sharing.
audio was good.
Yeah, we heard the audio. There we go. We see your screen now. Perfect.
Wanga nuilak nalang mutin Robin sitnaswang mirunga atatma igak akama nalang mutin Sharmi avaga asukluk anaga maktoyak. I am a high school social studies teacher at Shishmaref School. My grandma is from Shishmaref and my grandpa is from Mary's Igloo. In Shishmaref, we're constantly living with unpredictability and erosion. You could see in this image, January 8, 2024, how the Chukchi Sea was frozen over. And then just a short while later, there was a storm that blew the ice out. And unfortunately, about a week later, the ice came back in and it created this ice wall, which then crossed the newly rebuilt road. So we're going to have to see what happens come spring with the seawall that was just built and the road that was reinforced. You can see Shishmaref off in the distance. So this unpredictability and the erosion really interferes with our ability to do our everyday tasks, like going to the dump, going to fresh water, and even determining when and how we fish and hunt. So it's my personal belief that as Indigenous people, we're always living science. We know about the world, the natural world around us. Our ancestors have experimented and with food preservation and storage and gathering. And of course, we naturally observe our surroundings all the time. What I found in the classroom is that sometimes we struggle to understand science. Here, the students are saying that it's boring, but a good thing to learn. It's something that we learn about in school.
Judy, the audio stopped on our end, at least on my end.
That
Okay,
science
we're back.
is great. It's a good subject. It could be fun, and it's the study of life, and it's important. My students, they want science to be easy. They want it to be less complicated. They want it to be more understandable. They want it to be fun. And I really like how they, one, want science when they need to cook. I just love that they're making that connection. And I like the idea that in the classroom, we can bring the way we live with what we're learning in school together in social studies. So we study our classroom temperature, CO2, and drinking water. We have a wind halo in the classroom, so we use that to validate concerns like it's too hot, it's too cold, or looking at how different smells are affecting our air quality. And then because our water comes from snowmelt and rain, there's a lot of organic material, and we were gifted this wonderful water filter. So we're constantly paying attention to how our water tastes compared to the water fountain water or what we have at home, which is called quarter water, because it comes from the community water source. When I'm thinking about community and citizen science, I am especially passionate about what community and citizen science looks like in a K-12 setting. It is definitely student-led and culturally responsive. By paying attention to what the students notice and what they're interested in, we can start monitoring different phenomena, and it also helps them maintain motivation and investment into developing questions and finding answers. Citizen science in the classroom is also culturally responsive. It's the teacher being aware of our own culture, but then also the culture of the students and their community. It's what do they know? What do they want to know? How do they want to know it? And how do they want to learn and study it? Another question that I'm interested in is the challenges and or strategies for engaging K-12 students in citizen science. First off, it needs to be culturally responsive and student-led, and then there has to be a dedication of time for not only non-science teachers like me, learning the scientific study, being willing to learn and find ways to teach the students, and then also really dedicating the time to starting monitoring and following through with the different projects. And with the work that we've done, it's definitely worth it. It's a lot of fun, and it's the excitement that you see in the students learning and doing science outside of a science classroom is rewarding beyond belief. And I look forward to hearing from more of you and having more Tundra Talks with you. Teku Koiana.
All right, thanks, Judy, for sharing that. And well, Judy gets up the next slide. Thank you to our panelists for presenting a little bit about your work and your vision of student-led research. Next, I want to go into, this is why we have you all in the room. There's a lot of knowledge. I looked at the list of who's joined us, and there's some interesting people in the audience as well. So we're hoping that we can get into the discussion pieces of this. And I think Roben's video is also a great place to start. So while I turn this over to our panelists for a moment. In the meantime, if you're participating, feel free to type in questions or raise your hand, and we can go straight to the audience. But the Roben, she was talking about what does community and citizen science look like in a K-12 setting? And also, what are the challenges for engaging or strategies for engaging K-12 students in citizen science? So I hear, I get asked these questions quite a lot, which is why I thought it would be worth discussing them. Is any of our panelists would like to address more about that? That would be great, especially what culturally responsive education looks like and how does it fit into student-led research. We can do that. And Judy, it's okay if you could stop sharing your screen. There you go. And we'll also go to gallery mode so we don't have to be pinned up here also. And we can see everybody else. Okay. Anybody that would like to address those questions? Okay, go ahead, Elena.
Okay, one of the things that we do is to invite teams of educators and community members into our professional development workshops or courses that we offer to begin this engagement of K-12 students. But we need the help of the educators in the schools, or and also even non-informal teachers who teach outside the classroom time. And so we invite them to come as teams, because we know research shows that when you are in a team, then you can help brainstorm and work together and support each other. Besides our team from the project or program helping them. And then, of course, in one of the challenges in rural schools is the fast turnover rate of teachers. They stay 1 or 2 years coming from outside of Alaska. And so then that's the reason why we encourage community members to come, because we know that they're invested in their community and they want their youth to be involved. And so yeah, and the challenge is the turnover rate of teachers and also the time that they are allotted for science in the school, within the school days.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Katie?
I asked Izzy, a 5th grade, there's no school today because it's parent teacher conferences. And so I said, Izzy, what do you think is important in if school students are leading research? What do you think is most important?
That I think that it's important that their like parents or like the teacher doesn't just do it for them, that they actually have to put their brains to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of science I like.
Yeah. Thanks, Iz.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Any thoughts? Okay. If our audience, if anybody wants to jump in here or ask your own questions, feel free. Otherwise, I'll just keep going on. You talked about, Alyssa, and I think all of you mentioned the word to student-led and then moving into action. Can you talk a little bit more about that process and what it might look like for what does the action look like that you're trying to get? What does student-led action research really mean?
There's a difference between action research and then student-led action. So I guess that's the first thing I would separate those two, because action research is its own methodology. I think for us, when we were doing our front-end assessment for our Arctic and Earth Science project, one of the themes that kept coming up was, a desire for elders to have youth engagement in community life. And then, there's a lot of challenges for our youth today, and depression and anxiety is a big thing. And so, using action as an antidote to anxiety, right, Elena? Like I think Laverne Dementive taught me that. She's a professor here at UAF that, and she's like, action is antidote to anxiety. And so that's why we include the action piece in the learning cycle model that Elena showed. That we've been experimenting with ways to get there, because it's not just like, okay, you go out and you're observing the land and then all of a sudden you want to make a difference, like sometimes it happens like that, in my 15 years of doing youth science stuff. Sometimes the kids are all fired up and they're like, we need to contact the government, and then I'm like, sure, here's the phone number of the guy that manages the land, but sometimes it's harder to see the connection, especially when it is as intangible as changing CO2 in the atmosphere, So Elena and I have experimented with this idea of scenarios storytelling as one way to connect the experience of science to action. I'm like, okay, you see the data and you see a warmer spot and a cooler spot, and like if the cooler spot becomes more like the warmer spot, what would the future look like? And then having the youth tell stories of what they can imagine the future to be. And even without facilitating the next step, often the groups that we've done that with will take the next step to actually do the thing that their youth prioritized. Other things we've tried is like, one of the other things we've tried is the 4-H curriculum on civic engagement. if anybody's checked that one out. They've got a really good, it's so like applying that to a citizen science context and a community science context. We found had pretty good luck with that because it's a structure, you know, that's easy to use, and they've got the worksheets already and everything. So yeah, I don't know if Alyssa or anyone else has done data to action kind of things.
Yeah, since I said my project is like critical participatory action research, I can like talk more about what action research is. And I guess like I always say at its most basic, it is research that's done with the intention of moving something forward. So like often, I guess I tend to do this in my projects, but I don't know that it's a necessary component of action research. But I will often have the, I don't know, like the decision maker, or some of the like key stakeholders that are involved in whatever change might end up, you know, we want to advocate for as a result of the research are involved in the research from the beginning. So in the example project that I shared, it's the school district, right? And so we're partnering with them very closely and deeply. They know that that we're going to create this new survey that might change, you know, ideally, hopefully it will change perceptions about math engagement and maybe even more broadly, just classroom engagement, what that looks like, what that feels like to center different cultures and experiences, and that might also end up influencing teaching practices and teaching approaches. But anyway, it really is just often thinking about like what a policy or practice change could be in usually a fairly local setting, whether that's like a school district, a city, a state, something like that.
Okay, great. Kevin, if you want to jump in here and ask your question, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for this. I've been working with youth for quite some time, and so I guess I was just wondering what role you see those working and traveling throughout Alaska in the field of climate change or air quality or infrastructure development can play in supporting youth across the state and also like in classroom instruction with teachers. And this is mainly coming from our work at the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium, because we do a ton of traveling across the state. And something that we're really looking to do is to help do some more coordination with classrooms, so we can actually do some more visits and, especially with the various fields that we work in. So I just kind of want to see, like, I just would love to know what you see the role of people like us at ANTHC playing in supporting youth development, education, and action across the state. Thank you so much.
I think that you play a really good role because there are many programs like ours in trying to engage youth in a culturally responsive manner here in Alaska and in other places. But we cannot be everywhere. And so we really need the support of everyone, so you, as you travel through, contribute to that, because some schools are not close to the university or other resources like that. But the fact that you are traveling and providing that expertise and support makes a difference in bringing science and supporting ongoing projects that the students may have already, or giving them ideas for new things as they report and observe unusual things happening in their communities. So I think it plays a, and I wish you could do some official evaluation of that to validate it. But I have a very strong feeling that that contributes to the support of the learning and the action part for the students.
Anybody else on the panel have thoughts, or even out in the audience?
think being a conduit for resources, Kevin, you should sign up for the AK STEAM newsletter, because like a lot of those resources are shared through there. And so as you travel, connecting teachers to opportunities, you know, Roben is on every listserv now that, you know, in the Arctic. And I saw Kristen Reese, she's on every newsletter here, you know, like there's sharing the resources and redistributing the concentration of those resources from the urban centers to outward. You know, that's one role, Kevin.
Okay.
Well, I very much appreciate that, and I will definitely take that into consideration. And don't be surprised if I reach out and kind of talk a little bit more about that with you all. And Katie, I did mention in the chat, so I appreciate you all so much. Thank you.
I'm glad you could join, Kevin.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. If there's another question from the audience, feel free to just shout it out. I think one of the things that I hear a lot, and I don't know if anybody in the audience is in this area, but I think, Katie, you kind of touched on your strategy of how to start a project, but often I hear about from researchers, especially early career science researchers, that are wanting to engage more with the community and K-12 populations or youth in the where they're doing their polar research. Is like, really, how do you start? How do you even, you know, you have this great connection, you've got elders involved, you got students and elders, you know, coming up with ideas, and that's how you're moving forward. But how do you even start this process if you aren't, yeah, just how do you start? Let's just leave it at that.
Elena, do you want to take it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the ways to start, yes, how do you start, especially in rural towns and schools, when you don't have any connection at all. And so I've been trying to learn a lot. You know, I have been blessed with having connections with elders, you know, even 20 years ago, through other colleagues who have connections with elders. And that's how I got started in doing Globe in a culturally responsive manner, where we invite not only scientists and educators, but also elders and sharing their expertise. So if you're new to a town or don't have any connections, that's when you try and find somebody who can introduce you and make connections to leaders and elders in that town and then teachers as well, educators as well, to try and make that connection and see what their priorities are. And it's good when we have lots of ideas to start with, but we have to have that sweet spot of where what we're bringing would be meeting some of their priorities as well. And so we need to take time to listen to what their priorities are, and get started on, you know, how we can support their priorities.
Anybody else want to add, or?
You know, Kevin was, you know, doing the private message, and he was like, "Hey, I remember you from AtChem." Yeah, I was like, "Hi, Kevin. Yeah, great to see you." So like showing up in the same places over and over again. You know, AtChem is the Alaska Tribal Environmental Management Conference, right? Alaska Conference for Tribal. So
Alaska Tribal Conference on Environmental Management.
There you go. Okay. So like keep showing up in the places over and over again. That's one way to, and then you just start making connections. Yeah, quite the acronym. That's one way to start relationship building.
Or Alaska Forum on the Environment.
Alaska Forum on the Environment, or the Alaska Educators, different conferences, you know. And this is true for any space in the Arctic. It's small enough that you're going to run into the same people multiple times and be like, "Hey, we should talk," which is exactly what Kevin did in the private messaging function of this meeting. It's like, "Let's talk when you come back down next month, let's talk. And then that's how relationships start. So, but gathering people together, one thing that has been really effective for us is like hosting events. Every summer we host a workshop and we bring together teams of people, and then you spend a week together, and then your relationship starts there, and you start building trust and doing lots of fun things together, with this idea that you'll co-create a project. And so that's where Elena and our project kind of starts, and on an annual we have like a seasonal rhythm, to be like, all right, summertime, bring everybody together, and wintertime, go back and do some cool stuff in your community, and we're there to support you. We did find retention in our from a program design perspective in community and citizen science. We found that retention is way higher when just start loving each other, honestly, like, and noting people's relationships and strengths in their community and in the broader landscape of Arctic work. That I think of, like, there's a whole bunches of classrooms that we've worked with over the years that just keep signing up for everything and showing up everywhere, because it's fun, and we love each other already. So
it's nurturing those relationships.
Mhm.
And yeah. And Katie's very good at that.
And we know she likes to laugh a lot.
Yes.
We think about, like,
Contagious.
keeping it spicy too, like, because in these sorts of projects where you're like same communities, same teachers, like want to benefit from these programs. How do you keep it spicy? It's like a marriage, Elena, it's like a marriage, in any relationship. You gotta keep it spicy, not the same old all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So it's coming up to the top of our hour. So if you have any other questions, you can feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll send them out to everybody. But I saw that Anna, you said to say thank you. You just wanted to know, let's see, there was, will there be another panel taking place soon? Well, I don't know about soon, but yes, the idea with Tundra Talks is to keep having these kinds of events and having some time to share and discuss things. So yes, we're planning some other panels like this throughout the rest of the year. And then we will share this presentation online and through email. I'll have to ask if you want the individual presentations. I'll give you, if it's okay with the presenters, to give your contact information out. If not, you can also put it in the chat, and then you can work directly with the presenter about which presentation you want, if that's okay, Anna. Yeah, so Judy, if you don't mind sharing the last little slides for me. I do want to thank everybody for joining today. And before you leave, I just want to let you know that, speaking of community and citizen science in the far north, we are doing a conference. We have an online conference coming up April 17th and 18th. And we are currently accepting abstracts. And abstracts do not have to be full on. There's a couple of choices. You can do a full on presentation about a project or efforts that you've been doing for a while, but we're also have a lightning presentation, a shorter presentation available for people just to say, hey, I'm looking for collaborators, or we just started this project and we don't know very much, but I want you to know about it. So please feel free to check out the abstracts part of the application or the registration, and submit those. Those are due, I think, March 8th. And then also registration is open now. So that's the next big thing for community and citizen science in the far north. And then Yeah, I will send out in the evaluation or the follow-up email a link to a short little feedback survey about Tundra Talks. And I think that's it. So thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. And thank you to all the panelists for joining us and all the participants. So have a great day wherever you are in the world.